Hello there, sir. It's been too long.
Yes, just a few minutes ago, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right, so we're going to be talking about digital identity here. The first question I have for you is, what exactly is this era of digital ownership? What does this mean in plain English? Explain it to me like I am my mother.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? Well, I mean, I think the very principle of ownership, which includes digital ownership, is, from our perspective, is essentially the principles of capitalism and our freedom, right? The fact that you can own your house and you own your property is the reason that you have the freedom to transact, is the reason that you have these liberties in place, right? If you didn't own your property, regardless of what property it is, then you don't have the freedoms attached to it. Which, by the way, is also why economies that have more property rights and stronger property rights is why they can benefit and grow from that. Just take even not physical ones, but even intellectual property rights. Like Japan is a hotspot for that. For your manga, Japanese anime, intellectual property rights, Sony, whatever these things, all these things are intellectual property rights. They're virtual in nature, but they're actually protected by law. And that's why you have these industries and economies that then created technologies, and like whether it's Toyota or Fujitsu, it's all IP related type of stuff. So now let's take it one level. What's digital ownership? What's digital property rights? It's the same idea, but now it transcends into an area where you can prove digital ownership and have value that. Bitcoin perhaps being the sort of originator of that idea that I can have digital property, regardless of its value, I can now prove it, right? Because, and I want to just go a little bit more philosophical here, which is, human writing was invented. The ancient Sumerians invented writing as a ledger, right? So in other words, the infrastructure of why we invented writing, which is the base of civilization, came because I needed to prove who owned what cow, right? This is your cow, this is your cow. How do I know that? When population grows, I put it on a tablet. That's when writing was invented, some 5,000-6,000 years ago. And so, we can say finance is the sort of engine for that, but it's really ownership that provided that. And we don't have that in digital world per se, except on blockchain, because what's the most valuable thing in online is our data, right?
Yeah.
And it's not owned by any of you, it's owned by the platform. And every time you post a photo on Instagram, every time you do something, you're feeding them, you're making them valuable, which is why they're worth trillions, by the way, and you're not getting paid any for that. And so this is about reclaiming that property right back to you, maybe to your agents, but they're basically they're yours, and you derive that value from it. And that's why digital property rights is so important, and blockchain is a way to do it. And Bitcoin was the first proof point as to that being possible.
Okay, so let's move forward in time and see that and imagine that digital ownership is pervasive. Right now, in the internet age, so far, like you said, these major platforms have been the beneficiaries of all of our information, data, everything like that. What does the economy look like when digital ownership is everywhere? I'm assuming it's going to increase. There's be more productive.
Definitely make it more productive. But let's maybe we'll talk about how does it get bigger.
Okay.
Right. Because it's easy to one of the challenges is imagining, well, why was digital property really matter when most people can't understand its value? And this is kind of where agents come in. So if I was to ask the audience here, I mean, you all heard of AI agents, right? And I don't mean like Gemini or ChatGPT. I just mean like agents that do work for you. A raise of hands of how many people here think they'll have at least sort of one AI agent in the future. Oh, really? Only one hand? Seriously? Okay. Okay.
Shy group.
Shy
maybe.
group. All right, fine. How about like 3 agents? Okay. Interesting. A little bit more. All right. Anyway, so when I go talk to different audiences, typically most people say they'll have around 3 to 5 agents. I have 200 right now. Okay. But I'm not, and I don't think I think of myself as an outlier. We can talk about that a little later. But an agent could be your assistant, could be writing code for you, could be like a coworker, right? But generally the consensus is it's more than one. And so there's 7 billion people online. So you do the math. If you're going to have 3 to 5 agents in your life in the future, you're going to have somewhere between 20 to 30 billion agents, right? And for agents, the use of digital technology is natural. Code is how they exist. So in blockchain, think about it, right? One of the challenges we had in blockchain is, hashes, MetaMask, encryption technology. For an AI agent, easy to translate, super, super transparent, right? All the financial rails, back in the days when, we were involved in CryptoKitties in 2017, millions of dollars would melt the blockchain. It couldn't work. And today, we have, because of that, all the scaling solution. Now you can transact billions of dollars on blockchain, with Polymarket, with Solana, and that kind of stuff, right? And now all the institutions are now going on chain and saying, I can use this technology because it works, because it scales, because it's valuable, all that stuff, right? But the primary user of this is going to be agents. But the agentic commerce aspect only works because I can have digital ownership. So if I'm an agent, can I have a bank account? I can't. Do I have a PayPal? Do I have some way of transacting? Am I going to use Visa, MasterCard? Right? I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to have a stable coin, or I have a digital asset, or it could be Bitcoin, and I can prove that it is Bitcoin, and the other agent will accept it because he can basically say, yes, that is my thing, right? And so we will not have digital ownership because we ourselves are going to just use the digital asset in this way. We're going to have digital ownership because our swarm of agents are going to utilize it, whether it's for payment, for ownership, for transactions, for whatever RWAs, and they're going to do that at scale, right? And the other thing, is not to think of it in terms of transactions as in how we transact as humans, because we transact as humans very intentional, step by step. You might use your credit card, I don't know, 10 times, 20 times, maybe 30 times a day, right?
Well, that's a lot.
That's a lot, right? Okay, if you're traveling or something, however, an agent will do at least 10 times, if not 100 times that amount in the same period of time, right? So transaction fees and costs and efficiency and validation matter a whole lot, right? And that's actually where we think that future is. And so we're going to have, we think, hundreds of billions of agents around the world. They're all going to be dealing with digital assets because that's the only medium they understand, right? And so this will expand the market and grow. And I know everyone talks about, AI is going to make people unemployed and that kind of stuff. People talk about that in the Industrial Revolution. People talked about that when the internet came about. People talked about all that stuff, right? And yes, jobs have changed, but the market grew, right? Because the increase in productivity is going to explode, as it has in every revolution. And as the increase in productivity explodes, so does the market and therefore the opportunity.
So to summarize, would you agree with this, that digital ownership will be mostly for agents on behalf of people?
Well, the owner of the agent is a human.
Yeah.
So from a delegated standpoint, it's the human who owns it, but it's the agent who can transact and deal with it. And that's how it's going to grow. One of the biggest friction points we had with digital assets is how you own it. So the process of owning it is complicated. And also, then we say, okay, well, do you really want to keep using Facebook? All those social networks that were, Farcaster and Lens and so on, right? And it's hard because we've got our networks there, and it's difficult, right? But an agent will just do everything for you. You don't really care about sort of the friction point, because for an agent there is no friction point. It's just natural.
Where does digital ID get involved in
Fundamental.
this? Yeah.
Fundamental.
Both for the human and for the agent.
Well, yes. So digital identity, what we're doing with Mochaverse, the reason why we're so sort of heavily invested in that with Mocha ID is that each of these agents will need identity, maybe even more so than humans, because we have a passport and we have that kind of stuff already, but an agent doesn't. And it's not even about whether the agent has his own reputation, that's valid. It's also who owns the agent, right? Is it a credible person? Can I trust him, right? And it's kind of like, how do we think about trust today? It's like where you work, for instance, where you went to school, right? Who's your family? You're already kind of measuring the kind of reputation that individual has, and then you will do business with that person or have a relationship with a person because of that background. That's how you validate. But with an agent, you have no idea who that person is, right? So in the Web2 world, we have ways of doing this, 5-star ratings on Uber, seller-buyer ratings on Rakuten or on Amazon, right? Very primitive, but you can't own them and you can't take them away. But where this becomes wild is that when agents and agents do business with each other, it no longer becomes a central platform that adjudicates your reputation. It's the agent themselves that basically owns a reputation score that can basically then do business in a very, very decentralized fashion.
And that score would be on a blockchain somewhere.
It would have to be blockchain,
Yeah.
because it belongs to you.
Right.
I mean, and just think about, can you merge your Uber, Amazon, Airbnb, all those reputation scores into one? And you can't. And that they don't want you to, because they want you to be beholden to that platform. But I want to take it one level further, because the digital identity is essentially the rails that allow commerce to happen, because commerce can only happen with trust. So what is eBay or Amazon? They're basically agents of trust. You go there and you trust it. If you don't trust it, you won't do business with it. And the ratings give you trust. So the identity is the trust layer, but in a decentralized fashion through blockchain, that you can now do business with each other, knowing that I can trust you because there's a mechanism of reputation loss, for instance, or other consequences that might happen. But the next level is that, because of agentic AI, 90% of apps and software will all die. You're not going to be using software the way that you think you are, because your agent is going to build your customized software for your restaurant in 5 minutes. It's just going to build stuff for you in a customized way. You can already do that today. So everything will just simply be, you could talk to your agent, I need this customized thing, I need a travel service for my trip in Japan for for 1 week, boom, 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 it's done, okay? So that's all going to go away. So that means identity isn't going to be just attached for the agent, it's also going to be attached to software.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Because the software has a reputation, it needs to interact with agents as well, right? So anyone can just write software. Malware is an example. So how do we deal with malware in software? Is we don't have software having a reputation by the company who built it. But now with digital identity, you can actually put a score to the software as a rating that other people use as well, right? And that becomes a decentralized way in which everyone can work together, much like you do on blockchain, by validating this way without actually having to know your identity.
Okay. One last really quick question, Mr. Sui. I know it's going to be hard for you, but are there any examples of like digital ownership via AI happening right now? Are there like the primitives being built, or
everywhere right now?
Yeah.
I mean, look. So for our own, with Animoca Minds, our own agents, basically they all have a wallet, and they all basically already transact and pay with each other through tokens, right? But when you think about sort of AI agents currently trading, I mean, that's already happening. Again, these are more POCs, but it's already beginning, right? Because every agent can have a wallet, right? So I think at this point, we probably already have hundreds of thousands of agents sort of doing that.
So the wallet is the ID?
So the ID is, with Mocha ID, for instance, it would be like a soul-bound, or it would be like an ID chain, right? That's attached to it. And we have format standards like 8004 and so on. Like they're all emerging, right? But the wallet is where you hold your assets,
Okay.
right? And of course, you still need your cold wallet if you want to keep it safe. You need still your multi-sig, but effectively an agent wallet is like a hot wallet.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I know we could continue talking for a long time, but I appreciate it as always.
Thank you.